How's everybody doing? Fantastic. Well, thank you for coming to hang out with us for the next 35 minutes or so. I'm Todd Park, White House tech advisor based in Silicon Valley. I'm a tech entrepreneur by background. I co-founded a company called Athena Health, built the first cloud-based software and services for doctors' offices, a company called Castlight Health, online healthcare shopping service. But the most amazing experience I've ever had as an entrepreneur, as a professional, has been serving my country for the last few years, working for the US federal government and President Barack Obama. And a big reason for that has been the opportunity to help start and work with an amazing new team in the US government called the US Digital Service, which we'll talk with you more about today. How many folks have heard about the US Digital Service? Oh, that's wow. Above average, awesome. Okay, so for the rest of you, just to give you a quick overview, the US Digital Service is a new startup unit of the American government, sponsored by President Obama, started about 2 years ago, and its mission is to help build a more awesome government for the people, by the people. And specifically, to work with agencies across government to continually improve some of the most important services the government delivers to the American public, benefit delivery to veterans, healthcare for veterans, immigrating to America, federal student aid, and lower their costs at the same time. And the specific approach is to actually take a lot of the best practices that have become routine in, say, metaphysical Silicon Valley, agile, cloud, user-centered design and development, and bring those into government and apply them to these critical services, and in doing so, dramatically improve outcomes and lower cost. And the specific way we do that is basically, think of the US Digital Service as a next generation tech Peace Corps, which now numbers 200 incredible souls. Product managers, engineers, designers, UX folks, operators who are deeply, deeply experienced in how to ship product. They've actually worked on how to deliver digital services to millions, hundreds of millions, billions of people at scale in a way that delights those folks at incredibly low cost. Folks who are actually really well versed in these modern practices. Folks have actually come from all corners of the country, from many top private sector companies, from startups, from everywhere, to join the US Digital Service for tours of duty that range from 6 months to 4 years, serving their country. They are an incredibly diverse team by design, an incredibly diverse team in every possible respect, because we believe and we know that diverse teams are the best teams. We're an amazing team because we're an incredibly diverse team. The only way in which folks actually are not diverse is their hearts are all the size of Jupiter. They love their fellow humans, they love their country, they want to use their talents to deliver services that help people in need and make the world a better place. What we actually then do is, from this pool of 200 amazing people, like the folks you're seeing on stage, we deploy them in small teams of generally 5 to 6 people, engineering, product, design, et cetera, and we inject them into projects to help improve the most important services the federal government delivers. For example, benefit delivery to veterans. On this engagement set, what happens is each of the teams injects into an agency like the VA and teams up with the best people on the ground at the VA, who may not have spent 10 years scaling large-scale systems, but who know veterans really well and know the issues that need to be solved really well and how the VA works. And it's the team up of the folks on the ground at the VA and these USDS folks who actually deploy that work together with massive air cover from the President and from the Secretary of the VA to challenge every existing assumption, to change process, change policy, change practice so that modern practices can be applied, which has time and time again now, as we've seen, delivered dramatically improved outcomes to veterans, to students, to immigrants, to the public at dramatically lower cost. And there are 2 benefits from this work. One is that veterans get health care. Immigrants can come to America to live the American dream. Students can get access to financial aid that can change their lives. The second benefit is that in each of the agencies in which we work, we, with our project, set a precedent for what is now possible. Right? We demonstrate that agile is possible in government. We demonstrate that user-centered design is possible in government. We demonstrate that using the cloud is possible in government, and that then inspires other projects to try to move in a similar direction and help improve even more lives. So that's the general theory of the case about how we roll. The single best way to actually understand the work and how exciting it is to talk about case studies in detail, some of the work that's actually been going on. And so to kick off the first case study, please welcome the amazing Sabrina Williams.
Hello, Hello, everyone. I'm Sabrina Williams. I am a software engineer with USDS, and I am here to tell you about a project that I worked on called College Scorecard. But before I do that, I want to give you a little background of how I got here. So let's go back to the beginning of 2015. My sister had just had a baby, so I was going to be the best aunt ever. I had just closed on a condo in Redwood City. It was my dream house. I was not thinking about government. I was not thinking about going anywhere. I was happy at Google. It was a good time. And out of nowhere, I sort of got recruited for USDS. And I let them talk me into a 3-month tour of duty. So we have like 3-month to 4-year tour of duties. And so my tour of duty started October 19th, 2015. It is now October 26th, 2016. So clearly, something got me, and I realized that this is the thing that I need to do with my life right now. I'm going to come back home at some point, but the impact and the experience is amazing. So and what I've worked on since I've been here has been with the Department of Education, the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of State, and I'm currently working on a project with State where we're working on modernizing the visa process. But what I wanted to talk to you about was the very first project I worked on, which got me hooked a year ago, which was College Scorecard. So what was the problem? I'll start off with some stats. If you look at millennials aged 25 to 32, if you look at unemployment rates, if you have a college degree, the unemployment rate is about 3.8%. If you only have a high school diploma, it's about 12.2%. Also, if you have a college degree, you're going to earn about $1 million more over the course of your lifetime than with just a high school diploma. But the one that I find most jarring is that 21.8% of people who have a high school diploma live in poverty. So 1 in 5 people who just have a high school diploma live in poverty. So it's clear that the best track to the middle class is to have a college degree. And unfortunately, a lot of people, especially those who are first generation and lower income, have no idea what the value of a college degree is. So the president was very keen on creating a tool that would help people be able to look at a school and understand the value that they're going to get for their money, and also to put out information so that the public can hold schools accountable for the costs and quality of the programs that they're providing. So how do we do this? The first thing we did is we talked to a lot of people. And what we found was that there are really three different groups of people. There are the students and the parents and the advisors and the counselors who want to be able to see a visualization of data, understand what schools are providing, and make good decisions for their lives. Secondly, there are people like researchers and journalists and policymakers who want to be able to take a snapshot of the data and analyze it and put it into spreadsheets or whatever it is you do with that and be able to glean information. And then third, you had developers who wanted to be able to create third-party tools so they could put the information out in a more targeted fashion. And so what we did is we created 3 different things. This is a screenshot of collegescorecard.ed.gov. This is the consumer tool, which I will come back to in a second. Secondly, if you go to collegescorecard.ed.gov/data, you will see that you can download 14 years worth of data about schools and programs and salaries and incomes and all that sort of stuff all at once, so that the researchers and journalists can do that sort of thing. And then third, and the thing I'm sort of most proud of, is that we released an API. And that API is what powers the College Scorecard website. This is actually a reference implementation. And what's fun is that you can see in this data, whereas a lot of times when you look at schools and their rankings and their sort of how they compare to one another, you see things about SAT scores and admission rates. But really, what we put in the forefront here was, how much does the school cost? What is the graduation rate, and how much are you going to earn after you graduate? So for example, are you going to go to a school that costs a ton of money, you're unlikely to graduate, and you're not going to be able to pay back your student loans? And it turns out that there are a lot of schools that sound like they would be too expensive. Like, for example, Stanford is really cheap for people with low incomes versus some of the more predatory for-profit private institutions. Not all of which are bad, but some of which are very bad. I will say this is the search results page that you can see, and if you click on any of the schools, you can see more information about them. But I wanted to tell you an anecdote. I think one of my happiest moments at USDS was when I was working with Black Girls Code in their camp in DC over the summer, and I was showing them Scorecard, and we were talking about schools, and we were looking up schools. And at one point, I asked them, tell me about some schools that you have seen on TV, commercials for schools that you think are good that you've seen on TV. And again, like I said, some of them are some of the more predatory schools that you see a lot of targeted commercials on. And it was a really great moment when we were going through looking at the schools. They had high cost. There was like a 12% graduation rate, and people were making like $14,000 a year. And watching these junior high student girls understand that this is the thing that you need to look at when you're looking at colleges, and knowing that in the future they're going to go to school and not going to come out with a mountain of debt and no good prospects, was a really, really gratifying moment. So, like I said, this was launched about a year ago in 2015, and since that time, about 2 million people have gone to the site, and it's had about 16 million page views. What's more exciting to me is the data site has had nearly 84,000 users and 26,000 page views, which is great because for every researcher that writes a paper, for every journalist that writes an article, for every developer that uses the API, they're reaching far more people than we were ever going to reach with an ed.gov website. And then lastly, the thing that I was really happy about was when we launched, there were at least 7 tools that were launched using the API within a month. And some of them include, the one was in Spanish, one was targeted at lower income students. So it was really gratifying. And I also have to say, this project was great because we worked with the Department of Education, we worked with 18F, and it's in the cloud. We used agile processes, we talked to users. It was really a wonderful project. So with that, I am going to pass it on to Courtney.
Thank you. Awesome. So hi, I'm Courtney Wallace. I will probably have the longest last name in history, I'm sure. I'm a digital service expert. I do UX design and development at the Department of Veterans Affairs. And I'm going to talk a little bit about a project that I work on called vets.gov, but more specifically, the healthcare application that we built on vets.gov. So just for a little bit of context, the VA currently has roughly 1,000 sites if you want to interact with the VA in any way, right? And then they have about 900 different phone numbers if you want to call and work with somebody. So one of those things that you can interact with is healthcare, right? So we wanted to move the healthcare application onto vets.gov, and so we wanted to figure out how people apply for healthcare so we make sure we did it in the right way. One of the stats you see behind me is these are the ways in which veterans apply for healthcare. At the bottom of that, it said that only 10% of people apply online. So for us, the question was, why only 10% of people apply online? I order my groceries on Instacart so I don't have to go to the store, so why would people want to go into a VA facility? Well, we found out the answer is because the process of applying for healthcare online through the VA is super, super frustrating. Most people don't want to do it, so they just don't. We found out this is why, when you try to apply for healthcare online, this is the screen that we saw. This is a product, an Adobe product, that can only be opened in IE 8. So for most people, that's not even a reality. Oh. So I actually just skipped one there. I wanted to make sure that nobody thought I was bashing IE or Adobe. But what we do know is that 70% of all government websites are accessed from some other browser that is not IE. So for most people, this is not even a reality to even access this form. So we had to come up with a plan. Our plan involved super routine things in the tech community. One is we had to design and build a front end that people could actually access. We wanted to test with real users, which were veterans. We wanted to refine the prototype, and we wanted to make sure we worked with actual VA employees to implement it, because they know the systems better than we do. So we used a little tech rocket science, HTML, CSS3, and React, and we wanted to make sure we fell back on our USDS pillars to design with users and not for them. So we went to this thing called the Office of Presidential Correspondence. If you write a letter to the president, there are a bunch of people whose job it is to read that letter and file it. So we asked them, hey, can we talk to veterans that have had a hard time applying for healthcare? And they gave us a stack of them. So we went out and met with them wherever they were, in their homes, at their jobs, and we asked them to show us how did they currently apply for healthcare, and then we showed them our prototype, and we wanted to get their honest feedback. We did. Some people said stuff like, this is awesome, this is great, and other people were like, this looks like this isn't for me, this is for young guys who just came out. This doesn't even look like a government website. So we tried to refine it, edit it, and make sure that it was something that all veterans felt like they could access, that they could use. And on June 30th of this year, we launched it. Yeah, this is exciting. And this is what it looks like. You can access it from anything, any browser, even your phone, any mobile device, and people can apply for healthcare around the clock, 7 days a week, right? I don't want to hit it again because I skipped myself. Awesome. In the first 3 months, we saw roughly 26,000 people apply online. If we had left it the way that it was, it probably would have only been like 3,700, because most of the time we were getting about 32 submissions a day, and now we were getting 400 to 500 submissions a day, and half of those submissions get processed automatically. I want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to really take a look at this, because stats like that are great, but the reality is that this is affecting people's everyday lives. We found out that there were people that had not seen a doctor in 8 years. We met veterans who had been in and out of homelessness, trying to apply, taking days off from a job they really, really needed to try to apply, calling the VA, not knowing what number to call. We knew people that had used their own personal credit cards to pay for dialysis while they were waiting to hear back about their healthcare eligibility. Those people are now getting processed within minutes, and they're seeing doctors they've never seen before. Even there are people who are getting put on transplant lists now because they're able to see doctors, and they've actually progressed so far. So I urge you to really, really think about the USDS. The work that we do is freaking awesome, and there is absolutely no other job I will have that reaches as many people and has the impact that this one does. Thanks. And now I'm going to hand it over to Kathy.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I am Kathy Pham. Before I jump into my talk, I wanted to point out two things from Sabrina and Courtney's talk. I don't know if you caught this a little bit, but Sabrina talked about the open API, and then Courtney had a little merge button from GitHub on there. So these are both things completely developed in the open by the government. So not only can you see how we're developing, but also in some cases contribute, which is pretty amazing and pretty powerful, which is something that I never even thought about from the private sector. So I came to the digital service while I was, like Sabrina, having a great time working at Google, and I wanted to come serve. My brother was a veteran, and I myself had been with my mom fighting cancer within different hospital systems around the country, and knew that our healthcare system needed a lot of work. And I found this as a great way to lend some of my my skills and effort. So I'll jump into that a little bit more, but first I want to tell you a little bit more about the U.S. Digital Service. As Todd mentioned earlier, we're here to deliver better services to the American people. These are people who are already paying their taxes, they're already paying us to deliver services, and in many cases, that our services aren't doing what they're supposed to do. And we just hit our 2-year mark, which is incredibly exciting. Jennifer Anastasov, who is our head of talent sitting right here up front, built our group from that little group on the left-hand side of the screen to what we are today with, yes, thank you, and being mindful of inclusiveness and being mindful towards diversity, knowing that many of us come from the tech sector and knowing that we have these issues in the tech sector. So it's been a really inclusive and amazing place to work because of that. We are now across all these different agencies and growing. We started out as a digital service group within the White House. We've expanded to the Department of Veterans Affairs, Department of Defense, Education, Health and Human Services, Homeland Security. So it's a series of startups around the federal government, and we're building tech teams and infusing the government with all this energy and all this excitement of how to build great products. And so how do we pick our products? Or how do we pick our agencies and our teams? We think of places where we can have the greatest impact on the greatest number of people with the greatest likelihood of success. So we don't want to set our teams up to go into a place where we absolutely cannot do anything. And thirdly, the ability to scale across government is really important as well. So what that really means is that at the end of the day, all the products and things we build and things we work on impact millions of people. Sometimes they're billion-dollar projects. They're incredibly far-reaching. And they are by far the most rewarding things we can work on anywhere in government. I always love this photo just because it shows the very diverse core of who we are. So I want to end by pointing out something that Megan Smith, who's our current CTO, tells us a lot. There are kind of two ways to think of our careers. One is to be surrounded by, go somewhere where we're surrounded by a lot of people like us, like here, where you're surrounded by a lot of amazing designers, software engineers, product managers. You have the support, the encouragement to build amazing products, ship it. You can fail as often as you want, and it's great. It's a great place to have a lot of momentum, a lot of drive. And then sometimes it's also important to go where you're rare, to go where your skill sets are really, really needed. Go where maybe your whole demographic and makeup is not, just does not exist, right? And Courtney, we were having a discussion earlier, and she made a amazing point of, yeah, we're going to the government to build great products, but some of the things we're changing is really from these conversations that we have with people, conversations around ethnicity and race and gender and these big issues, and it really drives changes in the product just by having these conversations. So I encourage you to consider going where you're rare and bring your skill sets and everything that you are to make another place like the federal government so much more amazing. So with that, I'll turn it over to Todd to close us out.
So just to reiterate what Kathy was saying, if you are an engineer, if you are a designer, if you are a UX expert, if you are a product manager, and you've had a few years of experience breaking bones, shipping product, we need you. We are looking for a few good women and men to come serve our country. And if you're excited about veterans getting the care that they deserve, if you're excited about helping immigrants make it to America to live the American dream, if you're excited about helping students access education and changing their lives and helping them change the lives of others and more, please go to usds.gov/join and apply. It takes like 20 seconds, super fast. Even if you're not of that profile, engineering, product, UX, design, but you know people who are, please tell them to apply. Because basically, right now, demand for USDS services across government is off the charts. And we are actually only constrained by the number of souls we can deploy to help. So please sign up. Please encourage others to sign up. And are we 17 minutes early?
We are, yeah.
That's like never happened in the history of conferences, I don't think. Do we have 17? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call audible. And what I'm going to do is ask Jennifer to come up stage. And actually, the 5 of us will just be sitting here. And so we're going to have an impromptu reception, right, for like the next 15 minutes. Yep. So if you want to come and ask us more questions about what we're doing or talk about how you might serve, if it's okay with the conference organizers, we'll just hang here for 15 minutes and chat with you all. But thanks so much for your time and attention. And God bless you. God bless America. Thanks.